You still like to, have you seen like a hot receptionist or?
Oh, I mean, visually, yeah, I don't mind seeing.
You just sort of flirt very quickly and then.
I don't even. I mean, because that's energy. I probably should. I should probably keep that part of my edge a little sharp. I mean, I teach a bit, and I have female students. I don't really flirt with them, but I don't actually get that. I don't get much of that anymore. Which is maybe, I don't know if that's sad or what.
No, but it's just interesting. You know, I'm so curious because it's like.
Well, from your outside perspective as a single guy, 29, and you think, I mean, how do you conceptualize like a long-term relationship, like marriage? Like, do you picture a husband who is constantly flirting, like going out for drinks with hot that aren't his wife, and be like, I'll be home soon, honey?
I'd say it feels, I feel like the whole dating side is like, you're in your relationship, you make it work. But I would have assumed that you would be out, say, with your wife or your girlfriend, and maybe you just flirt with a girl very quickly, and then your girlfriend might slap you in the shoulder. Just like as a way of.
I don't think, but I mean,
nothing hard. Not like you're like seriously coming onto them. You might just smile at them or something, or is it?
There's been moments like that, but I mean, I think a married guy.
Generally, you're just kind of in a different. I guess single life to married life or in a relationship is a lot different.
Oh yeah. That's what, what's funny is a lot of guys who I've taught for years, and I was just like you at your age, exactly. They assume that the hard thing, and it is hard for a lot of people initially, the hard thing is to get laid by a lot of hot girls, but actually what I've found, and other guys have confirmed this, it's much harder to make a relationship work well, and it's more rewarding too, though, because it's sustained. I mean, the thing with popping hot girls is it's just, in the end, it doesn't mean anything. It's like smoking cigarettes. It's like fun while you're smoking it, and then you put it out, and then it's over. And then you have to. And after years of living that life, I realized that. But is that these guys assume that they're gonna just, when they're ready, they'll just pop into a relationship and they'll be like, okay, but it's not like that. Like, it's developing relationship skills is a totally different, there's a little overlap, but it pretty much is a totally different set of skills than being single. Being single, you want to be loud, obnoxious, tough, your terms are firm, you're alpha, you don't take shit, and like, girls are attracted to it. In a relationship, that doesn't really work unless you have an incredibly subservient woman. But any self-respecting woman will walk away from that or constantly fight you until it's unbearable. So, it's funny. They are very different,
No, that's very interesting. So I guess going back, maybe for the guys who are watching this, that they want to get out meeting women, I guess maybe take them back to probably where you started and how you best got started and got into this. And because I've been looking through your story, I mean, did you ever really have a mentor or like guys that you would hang out with, or was it just all completely to yourself, or did you just realize one day, I want to get this done?
No, it's a long time ago. One thing I want to say is also, like, all this stuff we're talking about, Dr. Phil and all these things, I mean, that stuff was a certain period in my life, and in many ways, I wasn't a different person, but like when I even read some of my stuff or see video, I'm like, oh my God, who's that guy? I don't even recognize it.
I've noticed that straight away. It's like, as soon as I met you and I'm even talking 10 minutes, I was listening to one of your older podcasts a while ago, and it's like, it's like different straight away. And I think when you did that interview with Street Attraction as well, you seemed like you were a different guy.
Well, I mean, I guess that's good, right? I mean, it would be a shame if the way we are at 25 is how we are at 50. Yeah. In other words, hopefully we evolve, or I don't know if it's an evolution, but as we age, we change. Some things stay the same, but other things, because we have a different set of limits and a different set of life challenges. I mean, my life today doesn't look anything like it did 15 years or 10 years ago. So, yes, I have changed. And so when I read something or I see that, that's kind of like locked, it's a moment in time. So like, that's probably who you thought I was. But keep in mind, that was recorded in 2007 and 8. That was 8 years ago. That's a long, like, I'll visit you back when you're 38 and see how you are. You probably have a kid, losing your hair, probably living in the suburbs, being like, oh, the mortgage. And you'd be like, oh yeah, those days down on, and so, or maybe a different path. But terrible. but my point is, it's like most of us don't, almost 10 years, it's a different, and I was in a very extreme example of a certain bachelor lifestyle, and it was great, but I'm not there at all anymore. I still have the memories though. And to answer your question quickly, how I started, I'm probably a frustrated actor. That doesn't mean I love reading a script and acting, but I like attention and like to be so. It started with doing with another guy, doing man on the street stuff, like goofing around with people. And then, but I was young and I was horny. And so then as attractive women started to pay attention, I remember having a video camera with a buddy in Boston. We went into a bar and all these girls were like being outrageous on camera, kind of like Mardi Gras. I mean, they weren't showing their tits and stuff, but I was like, wow, this is exciting to in a high energy environment, engage hot girls. And then we did stuff in New York like that. And that very quickly turned in, as well as my normal libido. I've always been have quite a sexual appetite in terms of, and really attracted to women. That in New York, it's just so friggin' bountiful. And they're much more aggressive than they are here. I hardly had to do anything in New York, and women were they just stare you down on the street and eat you alive and stuff. So, in fact, I just read a good book, Datonomics. It just came out about, you would love it because you're a numbers guy. What's it called? Basically, it's a quantitative analysis of dating in the modern age. He spends a whole chapter in New York City, how it's skewed and how effectively there's if you take the gay guys out and the guys in relationship, there's very few single men for every single woman. So you have this marketplace or this dating scene in New York where the women are incredibly attractive and incredibly aggressive. And so it didn't take long for me to be wow, this is like a kid in a toy store, Yeah. So and then I, of course, just doing it for 10 years, you perfect stuff. And I had a lot of free time, so every day I was on the street for hours.
Yeah. So because you were a teacher, right? So
you
just head out.
So I worked at night. So I was a private tutor, so I could work from 6 until midnight or 1 in the morning, and then sleep, and then I had the whole day free. So I constantly, when other guy, there was no, in addition to all those demographics I just mentioned, most of the guys in New York are in an office building trying to earn a living, and I was the one guy. There was a few of us crawling the streets. There was a period probably where Jeff and I, the other guy I used to run around with, were probably the most prolific guys north of 57th Street or even 42nd Street. I mean, we would often pick up the same girl a week apart. That's how, I think in New York City, that's how much we covered, we were combing the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're out walking all the time, and we had a lot of energy. We were young, so if a girl was a block away, we'd go to her, or if she was, we were on it.
So how did you sort of stop girls on the street though? I'm sure you've seen Yad, where he sort of runs around and stops them. But are you a bit more, were you just sort of just say hey, let me stop? Because I watched your infield videos, which at the time were great, because the thing is now everyone's putting videos of themselves doing it. I was talking with this guy last night saying even the big companies, probably back in the day, weren't putting videos out. But you put out a series, didn't you, where you just quick.
Yeah, that was in Austin. We did a day and a half. Yeah. We did 2 days of filming.
It was quite indirect. You were sort of hey, do you know where this place is?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't. We had the practical reality. We had hired a cameraman and flown out there and stuff. In retrospect, we didn't need to fly out there, but we thought we misunderstood the law in terms of model releases and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we wanted to make the most of it, and the surest way to engage a girl is indirect, because it's innocent. She'll stop for it, and then you transition it, which is the hard part, because as soon as she, the hook, right? So most people will stop for directions or whatever. Yeah. But then when you make it about her, oh, you're cute, why don't I take you for a coffee or something? Yeah. That's the moment. Some girls are oh, wait a minute, this isn't about to, they have that click, so you have to finesse that, which I was quite good at. But for the purposes of filming something, we had to do it that way, because the direct thing, especially college girls, young, it wasn't consistently as effective there. So we would have wasted money and time, and we didn't have that. So you can't all these false starts. So we had to do something that was reliable. So that's why I did indirect. But in New York City, where there was no cameraman, it was just for my own. I often would be quite flirtatious from the start and quite direct. Does direct work here in London?
No, the direct is pretty much the model. Well, most guys go through. I think if you're in a shop or it's, if it's like you're in a gallery.
When you say direct, you mean you make your intent known, like you're attractive, or is it quite sexual? Like I notice your like your ass or chest.
No, that's like super direct or something. But I'd say direct. You're just saying you find them attractive straight away. And then you straight away make an assumption, you sort of divert that away, because if you linger on the compliment, they'll sort of say like, okay, I'm gonna go now. So that was where I struggled. But you straight away go into that assumption. But when I was watching your stuff, it was like giving me ideas, when you sort of say like, hey, yoga, she's got a yoga mat, and you're like, where's the nearest yoga place kind of thing. So straight away you can say like, you look nice, and you're like, oh no, it's the yoga place, the yoga mat. Then you just start talking about the kind of girl you perceive her to be, and it's like the example you give in the in one of your talks where it was Matt Damon that pickup and Departed, and but all actors do it, don't they? They go in quite direct, smooth, and then they start flirting with them straight away, and then they sort of tell a little story about the kind of girl. He's telling her about being a psychiatrist and dealing with all these guys' problems.
Yeah, that's a good little scene there. Yeah.
But all of the top actors, I was thinking, do it. The Sean Connerys and they.
Do you ever see that? Well, I know they teach this in the PUA community. Vicky Cristina Barcelona with Javier Bardem. He approaches the table and he makes like this quite direct offer of taking them away for a weekend of sex, basically at his studio. And they're like these two. One is the adventure. Scarlett Johansson's quite adventurous, but the other girl's like quite rigid, and it was like, but he doesn't break, and he keeps going, and he obviously gets the girls in the end. But it's he's a sexy guy and quite commanding, but it's a very good example of like a strong opener kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they use that for teaching or whatever.
Yeah, I think persistence is probably a problem. Most guys at the start, they'll straight away the girl will give them a bit of shit or something, and then they'll just walk off.
Yeah, that's funny. Even when I was at my peak, I had to fight through the nose a lot.
Yeah.
Or and I had a lot going for me, and I was still getting, despite New York. I mean, maybe it's relaxed now, but it was still. I mean, there was a whole range. Some girls were totally up for it straight away, but other girls I had to fight. Like I'd have them on the line, but I had to fight it to get it on the boat. Nowadays, though, I mean, it's such an incredibly over-sexed culture, or sexualized culture with Tinder and stuff like that. I would think that this stuff is almost moot or unnecessary. In other words, I feel like when I was doing it, we didn't have all that stuff, so you still get rewarded for being a hustler. But now, according to some articles I read, a big thing on Tinder in I think it was the Atlantic, about Tinder in New York City, where girls are like totally up for it. You just and they're sending their naked pictures all over. Like, why bother with street pickup when girls, you can do it so easily on Tinder?
I think it's something that's still completely different. There's very few guys I meet, or the guys who come to me who had success in Tinder. I think it's a strategy for certain people, but I just can't imagine, as sure you like this about doing the day game, street game stuff, was that you could actually see the girl you wanted, you could get to know them a bit. So I'm sure when you went home, you say you got 10 numbers, and then you were like, look, these two are for
I
girls.
really like,
I like these. I didn't, they all looked really pretty, but
you connect with certain, that's true. I mean, even in 5 seconds, you can get a sense of the girl's energy, her attitude, and sometimes you can be wrong maybe, but that's the benefit of the flesh to flesh. You get like a real good feedback.
Yeah, but it's few guys can do it though, isn't it?
Really, yeah. You're on your way to work, and I know you live in Whitechapel, but hypothetically you're in King's Cross or Waterloo, some busy place, and it's rush hour, so it's like 9:15 with the assumption that people have to be at their office at 9:30 or whatever. And you see a hot chick, and she's rushing with her coffee, and she doesn't have 5 minutes to talk to you.
In that case, then it is going to be, you want to be trying to get 3 minutes. I think 5. If what I'm talking generally is probably when it's a bit lower paced, say
like in a coffee shop or something.
Yeah, after 7 o'clock or
on the street, literally 5 minutes standing on the street.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah, but it depends on the area, and like you're saying, if there are a lot of people busy. But it sounds like you incorporate this to your everyday life. You walk into work, but most of the guys doing this just go out and more on a weekend. But ideally you want it, but you just had a different strategy. I remember on an interview as well, someone talked about an instant date and you didn't even know what that was. So an instant date is where you go for a coffee straight away, and it's probably one of the best things to do. But it all started with, well, Yad, I think I found out through the guy Yad said some girl asked him to go, and that happened to me as well. A girl said to me, do you want to go and grab a drink? And then that's where I thought, you can do this. There's an instant date.
Clearly.
I also go out with them, don't you? So it makes more sense to go out with them there, especially if you're walking, if you've got a full day and you're going around the street. If going back, would you think that would have been something?
Well, I think the circumstance, I don't think when I was doing it in New York City, because the nature of it, I didn't pick up girls past like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Because in the summer, maybe a little later, but as it got darker, they get more timid. It's kind of weird for a guy to approach them.
It's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Even here in the evening on the street,
it's got to be well lit, I think.
Yeah, because you always have that factor of like the girls are a little creeped out if it's dark or something. So, but my typical thing was I would be like heading somewhere. I had to be at 3 o'clock, let's say, in the afternoon, and I was on the subway and I'd see a girl at 2:50, and I was rushing and she was going the other way. So I had to be somewhere, so there was no date opportunity. It was basically get the number really quickly. I'm already late. So the urgency was imposed by my schedule and the city. And she was just coming out from work to mail something at the post office and had to go back. So rarely got the sense that the girl was like, or at least the type of girls in New York that, I have an open-ended afternoon. That wasn't really but you have the problem when you just get a number, flake rate, as you would say, but also it's obviously much better to see them right then if you can, because then you have to get them back on the line and arrange to meet up. That's all logistics that can fall apart.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised that two people who meet both have like blank calendars for the evening, and they're like, oh yeah, sure, I have nothing to do. Let's go. I didn't find that often.
No, definitely. But yeah, it just shows, it's how times move on. I'm sure if you learn stuff.
But also, I think it's also, Yad was targeting tourists who were in London who had nothing to do, really. And I was chasing New Yorkers in New York.
So I didn't probably more impressive.
I wasn't. Rarely did I, on occasion, but my bread and butter wasn't.
What people want, don't they? They want to be going to work, run into someone, arrange for a date later rather than Tinder. But it's not quite like that. And I think to do it on the street as well, you've got to overcome so many barriers in what's expected in society. You can't really just stop someone in the street, or it's just unheard of, really. Because imagine if everyone was doing it, the world would be a mad place. Or it'd be more the alpha guys who would be doing it.
It's funny how, I guess now around Leicester Square and stuff, you see guys doing it, but when I was in New York, it was so rare that you would see.
Someone said last night, a guy, Sammy, who did a talk, he said New York, he'd never seen anyone do it.
Yeah, you don't generally see guys stopping girls in New York. It's interesting.
So there's just what's the guys, like general guys in New York, how do they meet women?
Well, the guys who actually live, we're generalizing here.
You've got the most single people there, haven't you? So
if they're single and they live in Manhattan, they usually have quite a bit of money, so it's no problem. They work hard, and then when they go to the bars, or they call escorts, or they'll, guys are pretty hard hitting in New York if they want to get laid, I'm trying to think of people I knew, or they'll be in a relationship, or, I don't know, it was an incredibly rare thing to see a guy chat up a girl on the street in New York, despite the fact that there's hot girls everywhere. You just don't see it, because there's quite a few, there's not very many men, which is crazy to think about, but also, I don't know, the ones that were there are quite serious. They're there because it's so expensive, let's say. They're there to make their millions. And actually, most guys would probably rather make money than chase girls, is the truth of it in New York City.
Or they feel when they get the money, they'll get the girls.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I think that's what most guys try and do, don't they?
But you were going to say a piece of it, you heard a guy say a tip.
Yeah, so